Welcome to another episode of The Yacht Inspector, the podcast that helps you navigate, well, the sometimes tricky waters of yacht ownership. Today, we're tackling a big one. It's a question a lot of aspiring boat owners face. Should you buy a pristine, privately owned yacht, or is there maybe a hidden gem to be found in the world of ex-charter boats? To help us chart a course through this, we are joined by one of the most hired marine surveyors along the Adriatic coast, Ingolf Schneider from yachtexperts.com. He's a true expert, member of the International Institute of Marine Surveying, and someone who has seen it all, really. Welcome to the show, Ingolf.
Thanks for having me. It's a topic that comes up a lot, especially when we talk about the used boats market in Croatia, with so many boats coming off the charter fleet, which sums up to somewhere between 5 and 6,000 vessels in total.
Right, that's quite a huge market. So let's dive right in then. There's this perception, or maybe it's more of a prejudice, against former charter yachts. Are they all just, worn out, abused, or is that too simple?
That's the perfect place to start because look, a blanket no to all charter boats is it's just as misguided as blindly chasing what you think is a bargain. The truth is, well, it's usually somewhere in the gray area, isn't it? In the middle. Exactly. I mean, I have seen, and I mean personally inspected charter yachts that were just meticulously maintained, honestly, in better shape than some private boats I've surveyed. And then you get the so-called cherished owner boat that was clearly just left to sit and neglect. It really comes down to the specific boat and its history.
Okay, so it's not a simple yes or no. What are some of those specific circumstances a buyer should be looking at?
Well, one of the most important points, I think, is the yacht's origin, its background. Who are you buying from? And maybe more importantly, who owned the boat?
The source.
Right. The source, if you will. Exactly. Think about it. The big, reputable charter companies, the ones with a really professional setup, they simply can't afford to neglect their fleet, as a breakdown during charter season cost them, well, it cost them money, sure, but it also cost them their reputation.
Which is everything nowadays. A bad review travels fast.
It's everything, definitely. So those boats are usually on really strict maintenance schedules. And as a former charter-based manager, I've witnessed on site how they pull out things like toilets and black water tanks for cleaning and service. I mean, let's be honest. When did you see a private owner last time doing this? Now, um, okay, in contrast to that, with the smaller charter outfits, you might find that, time runs out or there's a parts shortage mid-season, and that can sometimes lead to, let's call them creative or less than professional repairs. Not necessarily, but somewhat more likely than with bigger fleets.
Right, a quick fix to get it back out on the water.
Yeah, just to get it running for the next client that might be already waiting nervously on the pier. And then there's the ownership model. That plays a role too.
How so? What do you mean by ownership model?
Well, you have to ask, was the yacht owned by the charter company itself? Or was it owned by a private person in a so-called charter management program?
Ah, I see. What's the difference there?
It can be a noticeable one. When the company owns the boat, they have a vested interest in its long-term value, for resale down the line. But when it's a private owner's boat, just being managed by the charter company, um, the quality of maintenance or the checkout procedures can be a lot more variable, so to say. It depends, and it's worth being kept in mind.
Okay, so let's break it down then. The pros and cons. What's the big, shiny advantage of an ex-charter yacht?
The price. It's almost always the price. They're often significantly cheaper than a comparable private boat of the same model and age.
No surprise there. Anything else?
Yeah, actually, they're usually really functionally equipped for what they do, which is cruising. And their systems, the engine, the generator, they get run all the time. And that can actually be better for them than a boat that just sits in a marina for months on end unused.
That's a great point. So, what about the downsides, the red flag?
Well, obviously, the high usage is the main one. It's simple math. More hours on the engine, more wear on the sails, the rigging, the cushions, the galley, everything.
Just more life lived in it in a shorter time.
Exactly. So you can expect more cosmetic stuff too, scratches, dings, that kind of things. But here's the catch. As many charter vessels are well maintained on the technical side, fixing these kind of issues might cost a buyer less than having to deal with potential maintenance backlogs, as I often experience with private owners. So a really, really thorough survey is certainly a good idea to sort out these kind of questions and make sure you get a good deal for your bucks.
And the paperwork, the history?
That can be another thing to consider. I often find it much easier to review the maintenance history of charter vessels than the records from private yachts, with the latter ones simply not being available in many cases. And the same is valid for VAT documentation. Buying from the charter company, you'll get an invoice with the VAT stated, so no discussions for the future.
Right. Okay, so let's flip the coin. What about private yachts? What's the scenario there?
With an owner's boat, you often find it's been treated with more with let's say more emotional attachment,
With more love.
more love. Yeah. And private owners also tend to spend their own money on higher quality gear, little upgrades that a charter company just wouldn't bother with.
But it's not all smooth sailing, I imagine. There have to be pitfalls with private boats, too.
Oh, for sure. A big one can be we sometimes call it owner-itis.
Owner-itis.
Yeah, where an owner has done a lot of DIY work that, well, let's just say it might not be up to professional standards. Another thing is what we mentioned before. A boat that sits too long can develop its own set of problems. Seals dry out, engines don't like it. And funny enough, the price negotiation can be way more complicated.
How come?
It's simply a more emotional issue. Private sellers often factor in sentimental value, all the great memories. And that can really inflate the asking price beyond what the market says it's worth.
So, for our listeners who are maybe sitting on the fence, weighing these options, what's your final word? What's the key takeaway?
Well, the key takeaway is ex-charter vessels are definitely better than the reputation they have among potential buyers. And as long as you can cope with the layout based on a maximum of crew, they're certainly worth a closer look when you're on the hunt for a boat. But, however, no matter which way you're leaning, get an independent and thorough survey from a qualified professional who you hire, who works for you. It's the best way to really know what you're buying.
That's the bottom line.
It is. For an ex charter, dig into that company's reputation. Ask for the history on that specific boat. Don't let a low price tag blind you. And for a private yacht, really scrutinize those maintenance records and be a little wary of any custom DIY work.
This has been incredibly helpful. Seriously, thank you for clearing the fog on this.
My pleasure. Happy and safe sailing to all listeners out there.
And that is all the time we have for this episode of Yacht Inspector. Join us next time as we explore another essential topic for every sailor. Until then, fair winds and following seas.